Welcome back. Yesterday morning, the sad news broke that Lord Henry Mountcharles, the custodian of Slane Castle, had sadly passed away aged 74.
Under his watch, Slane Castle hosted rock concerts including the likes of Queen, the Rolling Stones and Harry Styles.
We're here to talk about Lord Henry Mountcharles. His life and legacy is broadcaster Dave Fanning alongside music consultant and commentator Dee Reddy. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Okay. Lord Henry, Dave, when did you first meet him?
I think I only met him first, actually, when the first gig was on. I did stage announcements at the very first gig with Smiley Bulger.
Ah, Smiley.
Yeah, I know, yeah. And I don't know how many were at it. I think it was about 15,000, was it 18,000? Like, was it 18,000? Yeah. And there was something that did happen that day when we were there. Like, Henry was great. Like, sometimes when I got to 70 or 80,000 people, he was unflappable. He was just like, why bother getting freaked out because there's so much going on here? Like, I might as well just enjoy the day. We've been building up to it for so long. And he just was great going around his little, what do you call it, those golf carts.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, there was no mobile phones for most of the gigs that I went to. And it was all, like, walkie-talkies come in, you know, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was great. He was just really... He'd stop and talk to you. I was like, how does he have time today to stop and talk to me with all of this going on? But the very first one was something that a point was made about Irish rock, was just very briefly, Led Zeppelin 10 years before that had their own plane going around the world. Now in dull Ireland, having your own plane with the 4 symbols of Led Zeppelin on the fuselage was like, wow, rock and roll. We didn't have that. We had a few Daily Mount gigs, we had Lisdon Varna, but there wasn't really... I had Bob Marley at Daily Mount as well and all that. But this was 1981 and this helicopter arrives in and out steps a rock god, and that was Phil Lynott. And I was like, I think we've arrived. There's something happening here. And it's the start of a new decade. So that's how I always remember.
Yeah.
And there's, you know, brilliant. He really was. Like, Henry just wandering around, just having a bit of a laugh and never taking it too seriously that he was freaking out. Because I'd be freaking out if that was happening in my place.
Yeah.
Not that my place is big enough, but you know what I mean.
Oh, absolutely. I aspire to be as cool as a cucumber as that.
Yeah.
He's described as a very charismatic and enigmatic man, and I think that's maybe how he managed to entice these rock stars to Ireland. They didn't used to do gigs like that. And did he always come across like that?
Yeah, I'm going to say he didn't necessarily entice them because, to be honest, like, he was just the front of it all. Like, it was MCD or it was Jim Aiken or Peter Aiken Productions that did it all. And they brought the bands in. They did all that part of thing. But he was the one who pre-ordered it weeks beforehand and spoke about it and you know, did it up. And he loved all the music. And he's got a story about every single thing. His favourite story was the Bruce Springsteen one, because the night before Bruce Springsteen played, he played the full gig inside the castle to about 10 people or something. I don't know, I wasn't there. And he said it was just so energetic and so energising, and he just loved it. He knew the next day would go great, and the next day did go great, even though Springsteen was freaking out.
I heard.
Never played
heard
such a big crowd.
Yeah, he said that on the horizon, all he could see were people.
Yeah,
and wasn't he the first
scared.
not to have any support act as well?
Oh, really? Was there no
Yeah.
support for Bruce? I can't remember that.
Yeah, I
really?
didn't think so.
Oh, right. Because there was always 4 or 5 bands, and Henry made sure that an Irish band was always on the bill.
Yeah,
At least
yeah.
one.
Okay. Do you have a Slane memory, Dave, that stands out to you?
Actually, one of the first kind of big concerts that I ever went to was Robbie Williams in 1999.
Yeah, when the moon came up twice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because Robbie dropped his trousers.
But, like, you know, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday.
He's getting that now.
And now it's landed. Yeah. But, like, it's had such a profound effect on my life. Like, how much I enjoyed that experience. Yeah. You know, I've spent so much of my life working in music and chasing the dragon, I guess, of those kind of first gig experiences. I think one of the only gigs I'd been to before that was maybe Blur in the RDS in 96.
Yeah, okay.
So it was, and I was only about 17 or 18. I don't think I was legally meant to be there.
Okay.
But it was brilliant,
yes.
you know?
And I suppose, like, Slane Castle, the introduction of Slane Castle as a concert venue kind of was a new dawn for Ireland in terms of gigs and venues. And I suppose Sorry, I forgot what I was going to say there. But when did Lord Henry take over the running of Slane Castle? Sorry, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, so I think he took it over in about 1976, wasn't it?
The actual castle itself.
Yeah.
There'd
been a change in the law, I think. So basically there was a wealth tax.
Yeah.
And his dad had basically said to him, look, you need to take this on and make it a going concern.
And hopefully Alex will now do the same thing.
Yeah, indeed.
Hopefully, yeah.
Or we have to sell up. And
so was it financial, the reason he started the concerts in the first place?
I mean, partly for sure, but I mean,
the promoter's also looking for a good venue.
Yeah, and he did say though that he had always felt, and he's quite right, was quite right in that there was this space in Slane that is a natural amphitheatre and that it lended itself well to that. But I do think it's kind of funny, like there's a weird sort of relationship that the Anglo-Irish aristocracy had with rock and roll in Ireland, going back to Tara Brown, who was pals with the Beatles and was the person that they wrote A Day in the Life for. And then his nephew, Garrick, set up Clara Records, you know. So there's been this kind of symbiotic relationship for decades, and then this comes about.
Yeah, and he's the first Lord, you know, that I've ever. I don't think I've ever met one since. He's the only Lord I've ever met. He spoke really posh.
He was even a Lord. Wasn't he an Earl or something?
Oh God, I don't know.
Yeah, I think Lord. I think the press called him a Lord.
Oh, really?
He was just an Earl.
Like Geldof was always Sir, but not really, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, like he always very posh way of speaking, you know. And he did go to the same school. He didn't talk like Winston Churchill, but he went to the same school as Winston Churchill. But like he was, and like himself and Iona, anytime you met them anywhere, they were so friendly and so nice all the time. And there's so many different stories I can think of. I was thrown out of a listening of a record once with Henry because we were laughing so much. They were trying to take it very seriously. Terence Trent D'Arby had a massive hit with his first album. His second album came out, The Fish That Fell. It was just listening party in Dublin, you know, really important. And we were just laughing with the kind of any chance you two could leave. You know, he was just such. I remember doing a Disney movie and we were in the foyer with our cameras, and when everybody comes out, first person comes out was Van Morrison. Ran a mile when he saw the camera. But like, you know, when the few people like the influences of their day, I suppose. But like, your man comes out and he was brilliant. Henry gave the exact 45 seconds you needed about the movie. You know? He was just always very friendly, unflappable, and a really nice guy. But funny thing is, the Robbie Williams one that you just mentioned there, that he did too. He did The Verve, and then the next year he came back. And honestly, I think the best reaction to anybody at Slane ever was probably Robbie Williams.
Really?
But he's an incredible performer.
Well, he's an old-fashioned entertainer.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't really my thing, so I was looking at things. But I went home in a limousine with Robbie Williams and, Keith from Boyzone, because we were presenting a thing that day. We got home in 25 minutes, and that's what I want to mention, which is getting out of Slane.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare. It didn't matter.
Well, I
we
was
can't
just.
all go home with performers.
No, but I don't know why that happened. I have no idea.
Well, because
back in the Marriott
they
Hotel
were
in
straight off the stage and you were in the car with them.
Yeah, it was just bizarre. Like, a lot to do with Keith, I think, nothing to do with me. But it was, and then really weird back in the hotel, like the biggest gig ever. And there he is, taking his clothes off in the room. His mother's down the corridor, the band's down the bar, and Keith, he's just going, "Yeah, I'm doing Dortmund." And it's like the biggest gig that Ireland has ever seen. It's gone from 5 minutes ago.
Wow.
You know? But there's so many memories of Slane, really are. You know?
But it will carry on because I think.
I hope so.
With Harry Styles there for the last gig, it is opening
new
up
generation
to
stuff.
new
Absolutely,
generation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And his son has taken over, isn't
That's
he?
right, and he has said that, like, even before his father passed away, he had actually said, I think, that he hoped that there would be something in 2026. So
Wow, I wonder
We
who
will wait and
can
see. Well, I'm just putting it out there. Ed Sheeran's releasing a new album, and the Stones have a new album which they're releasing later this year. So could the Stones make a third visit to Slane?
Yeah.
Could it be Ed Sheeran?
Yeah.
We will wait and see.
Absolutely.
I remember when the Stones played the first one in '81.
Was it daytime?
Yeah, no, I'll tell you, that's one of the other problems with Slane. If it's earlier in the summer, it doesn't get dark till about 10:30 or something like that. And you kind of need the headliner to be in darkness.
Yes.
It's kind of nice.
or when the sun is coming down and then into
that kind of thing with the sun
Yeah,
behind
yeah.
it. Yeah. I mean, when Bowie played, like, you know, you're looking at the thing, and I saw this branch moving up and down. I thought it was one of the dancers. Bowie's one was not good. It was just, it didn't work.
Yeah.
And Dylan was
Shambolic.
Dylan. I mean, Dylan is God, but he's usually lousy live, and he was lousy.
Say it like it is, Dave. That's why we love you.
Dave
see
and
you
Dean,
both.
thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, we're
Thanks,
going to
folks.
take a quick break, but still to come this morning, we're catching up with TV super couple Gabby and Kenny Logan.
We're also checking in with the iconic Reverend Richard Cole, and we've got some brownies baking away in the kitchen. R&AM will be right back after this.